Welcome to the November coaches meeting. This is a meeting that we used to host in person on the day of the event. Last year, we didn't have any in-person events, so we did these online early, and we really decided we liked it. Jeannie and I, we were both former coaches, always running around in the morning with our team. Sometimes, not being able to go to the coaches meeting because maybe we had judging. So we kind of like this. And so I think we're gonna keep it. But again, I wanted to welcome everyone. My name is Vicki Cody. I'm with High Tech Kids. With us tonight, we've got Jeannie Badger here. She's going to be watching the chat for me. We also have a head judge, Rand Willock, and a head referee, Josh Hogan, who will be talking later. But Jeannie will be managing the chat. So if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat. And later on at the end, there's not too many of us. And if you wanted to unmute and ask a question, that would be great. We could do that too. So let me just get started here. The other thing I want to say is how excited we are to have in-person events this year. Super excited about that. So I wanted to start with a little bit of venue information. So this meeting is for people competing in November. So this weekend, that would be happening at Dakota Hills Middle School. And next weekend, we will be at Prior Lake High School. For both of these venues, if anyone has been to these venues before, we are going to be using different doors to enter. And I wanted to make sure that you knew this. So at Dakota Hills, we will not be entering through the high school. Our First Tech Challenge event had to be canceled. So we will be entering through the Dakota Hills Middle School entrance. So just make sure that when you are entering in, because the Dakota Hills Middle School is actually attached to the high school, make sure you're entering into the middle school doors. And it's sort of, if you were to look at it, I believe it's almost like an upper parking lot. But there should be
rules, audio, and
but there should be a signage that leads you there. We're gonna enter through that main entrance, and you will have to come down that very big wide staircase. There is an elevator, but we're thinking the staircase shouldn't be a problem for First Lego League teams. For Prior Lake High School, if you're competing at Prior Lake, we're asking all the First Lego League teams to enter through the theater door. So Prior Lake is going to be there's going to be a lot happening there, especially on Saturday, because there's an FRC event. We're going to have an FLL event for you guys. And then there's also going to be FTC. And we're trying to have everyone enter through different doors just to keep some separation. So at Prior Lake, it's the theater door is 1N, and that is the upper parking lot. We will have signage, but as you come into the high school, it's going to be that lot that's sort of up on the hill. At both events, there will be concessions available, but as you guys know, FLL teams aren't going to be there for very long. But if your kids get hungry, thirsty, snacky stuff, that will be available for teams. Hopefully, all of you know that we are taking all of our forms online this year. We're saving some trees. We're being a little bit more efficient. And so I'm hoping that you've all been able to find those required forms on our website. If not, they are, as you navigate into First Lego League off of our website, there's a red tab along the right-hand side that says required forms. The High Tech Kids demographic survey is in there. So is the High Tech Kids consent and release. So we need one demographic survey done per team, and then each participant and coach needs to complete a consent and release. We do on that page also have a paper form, a PDF of our consent and release. If you have teammates who, for whatever reason, can't fill out the form online. The other forms from First also has a separate consent and release that's on their website. And once all your members have filled that one out, because we don't have access to who has filled that consent out, you can print a roster from your first dashboard, and you can just bring that to your event. All right, things to bring to your event. There are some obvious things. I'll start at the bottom. You know, your robot, your attachments, a computer, your kids, all your presentation materials, any paper forms that you might have if you had to fill out a paper consent form, your team roster from your first dashboard. We are also this year asking everyone to bring their challenge kit and their mat. So we'll have practice tables for you, but we would like you to bring your own mission models and your mat. Make sure you label everything with your team member. If it's labeled and you leave it, then I know who to call. If it's not labeled, we collect all the Legos at the end of the season. So I want to make sure you guys are getting your mission models back. So just please be sure everything is labeled. All right, any questions so far? Are we good? All right, I'll just keep going.
Yeah, Vicky, there is one question in the chat.
Oh.
Yep, Vicky, I'll address it. So I was typing the answer, but I'll type it in and sync it.
Okay.
If you want to check to see if your team members have filled out their consent and release, you can send an email to Bruce, BRUCE, at hightechkids.org, and he is keeping track of the demographics and the consent and release. That's kind of the easiest way to do it. We are working on updating our roster list that will tell you that, but that doesn't get updated immediately. So the best way to do it is email Bruce.
All right. So on the day of your event, you guys understand that you'll be arriving in waves. So you have like a 2-hour time block. So what we're asking is that you arrive only about 20 minutes before the beginning of your wave. So if your wave is at 8 o'clock, you know, please come at 7:40. If your wave is at 10:30, you know, please don't come at 9:30 because we can't. The wave one will be in the pits and we won't have any place for you. So please only arrive about 20 minutes early. We're just trying to space people out and keep everyone as separate and socially distanced as possible. Also during check-in, that's when you're going to give me any paper forms that you have. We are also going to be giving you as coaches wristbands. So you're going to get one per team member plus 2. And those are for your 2 coaches or 2 adults that are going to stay with the team. You will also receive we're going to give you your medals at check-in so that we don't have to ship them because they're heavy. So we were going to give you medals based on the numbers you give us in your demographic survey. And then, you know, we'll send you off to the pits and you'll follow your schedule just like any other regular year. So I know we've hammered this at every meeting, but everyone is required to wear a mask. All spectators, all of your team members, our volunteers, the coaches, all the High Tech Kids employees, we will all be wearing masks. They need to be worn over both your nose and your mouth. Spectators are welcome, but we are limiting the number of people in the judging rooms. And that's because the rooms are small. We're just, we need to protect our volunteers as well as the kids. And we're asking people so they won't be able to go into judging, but you will be able to watch robots. So if you have parents that are coming, they can be in the gym area or wherever the performance is happening. We're just asking people to be smart about it and not clump all together and cough on each other, right? Just use a little common sense, practice some social distancing. We really don't, I guess what my biggest fear is for us to have an outbreak and then we're not going to be able to have events, right? So we just want everybody to just use some common sense about being in large crowds. And anyone who's a coach and registered their teams, they had to agree to this, when you guys were registering. So we're not foreseeing problems with this. I just wanted to mention it again. So when you're at your event, if you have questions that day, so if you've got a robot question, something happened in the field, or if you have a question about, maybe there was an update or you're not sure about a mission or how a model works or something, we want you to first talk to the head referee. If you've got a question about judging, either process or, where to go, anything, you can talk to the head judge. If you have any other questions, or if you want to talk to someone who is not a volunteer, find a High Tech Kids staff. We're all running around in purple. And we're probably going to be pretty prevalent at all the events this year. So please feel free to come and ask us questions as well. So as you know, during the event, you're going to have this 2-hour time frame, which is going to be your wave. In that time frame, you're going to complete all of your judging and all of your robot performance, plus a practice round too is included in there. And then after your 2-hour time frame, we're going to ask you to not linger. We're just going to ask you to clean up your pits and make your way out, because we'll need to, clean off those tables so that the next group of people can come in. All right. So advancement and awards. So advancement, this year, the 2 teams from each judging group, our judging groups are smaller this year. So 2 teams from each judging group will advance. And I just want to remind everyone that advancement is based on equal parts, core values, your robot design, your project, your innovation project, and your highest robot performance score. It's not based solely on your robot performance score, because that's the score that everyone sees. That's going to be on the scoreboard. But just remember that it's the whole. It's not just that one little piece. Teams that win awards will receive their actual trophies. We're going to send them via US mail. So we're going to try to get those packed up and out by Tuesday, Wednesday of the week after your event. On that demographic survey, we're asking you for a mailing address and an address, and that's the address we're asking. Whatever address is on that demographic survey is where we're going to mail your awards to. The rubrics, including your score sheets from your robot rounds, will be emailed to the coach. So what we are doing is holding our award ceremony like we did last year online on our Twitch TV channel at 6:00. Here's the URL is right there online. But if you go to Twitch and you just type in a search of High Tech Kids, we come up and our green gear is there, so you'll know that's the right place. At about 5:45, maybe 15, 20 minutes before the award ceremony, we are going to scroll the final robot scores, the scoreboard of everyone, so you can see how everyone at your event did that day. So you might want to tune in a little early. All right, so I am going to hand it over to Rand, one of our head judges, and he is going to discuss judging.
All right.
Take it
Thank
away,
you, Vicki.
Rand.
All
Yep.
right. Thank you. Boy, before I get started, let me extend my thank you to all of you coaches. You are what makes this program work, and especially thank you for being flexible in these crazy times. But we're very excited, as Vicki said, to be able to have in-person showing off the robots. And that's really the goal here. We want the kids to be able to show off what they have done. So, boy, what happens in judging? Good question. So there are 2 different judging sessions. One is the robot design and programming judging room, and another one is the innovative project room. And because we're trying to limit the number of crowds and the number of people, we're only allowing 2 judges into each of the 2 adults coming in with the team into each of the judging rooms. So we highly recommend that one of those adults videos the judging session so that it can be shared with the parents. Don't go into the judging room until we invite you in. We're going to have to do some cleaning between sessions and things. And each of the judging sessions will start out with a 5-minute presentation by the team. We usually think of as the first 5 minutes of the session belongs to the team. They can use those 5 minutes. The rest of the judging session is really led by the judge and asking the team questions. question about if, for the innovative presentation, if the team has created a slideshow, is there a way to do it? If you need to set a laptop in front of the judge, that would be how you have to do it. You are responsible for all of the AV equipment and everything. We can't provide projectors or any of that. I do have to also remind you that setup for your presentation is included in the 5 minutes. So if you have complex props and things to set up, practice walking into the room and setting up. We really need to keep to our time schedules, especially with the waves coming in. When you go into robot design programming, there will also be 5 minutes for the team to present to the judge. This is new in the last couple of years, but remember that the design judging is really about the design process. How did the students come up with this robot? How did they get to this point? What are the steps they did? And so the kinds of things that you'll want to tell the judge about are, how did you decide which missions to do? How did you decide who was going to do what jobs? And make sure that you show the judge any artifacts you have from the design process. And by that, I mean, if you had a schedule of what you were going to do when, put it into a scrapbook. A lot of teams will bring scrapbooks. A lot of teams will take pictures of the robot through different phases of the design. So make sure you bring those. Any attachments. Since we want to see the process that developed this robot, we want to see false paths as well. If you tried something and didn't work, make sure you tell the judge about it. If you had a second robot that you tried a different way, show them pictures of that. If you have one student that spent the entire season building a very complex manipulator arm that never got used for any mission, by the way, this has happened on my team, bring it along and show it to the judge. Show the judges all of the thinking that went into this. If you used flowcharts and pseudocode to develop your programs, use that as an artifact and show that off. So all of these things you want to make sure you bring. Make sure you bring your laptop, because the judge is probably going to want to see your programming and some of your example programs. So pick out some of your showiest programs or your best programs. Have your students able to describe that to the judge. Now, unlike other years, we are not going to have a specific programming judge. There will be one overall design judge, and they will ask some questions about the mechanical design and the process there, but they will also ask some questions about the design of the programs. The teams will not be running the robot in this judging session. They will be talking about how they got the robot to this point. There will, however, be a programming award. So the judge will still be asking programming questions, and there will still be rubrics on that. And then in the innovation project judging, this is a totally separate project judging. Oh, make sure you bring a prototype or drawing of your solution. And this year, unlike years quite a while ago, they really do encourage a prototype of some kind. Now, what can a prototype be? It could be a scale model. It could be a drawing. If you've got one student that after the robot has been built, they still want to build with Legos, build a Lego prototype of your solution. Any props or things, make sure you bring all of everything to the innovative project judging. We had a question about if a child has special needs, can we alert the judges? And absolutely, we've got super good judges that can handle a wide range of situations. Just let us know ahead of time, and we will be absolutely as accommodating as we can. Once again, we want these students to be able to show off their best. Remember that previously we had a separate judging session for core values. We no longer have that. We only have 2 judging sessions. One's robot design and one's innovative project, but we are still judging core values. It is still a quarter of your score. And an important thing to just tell your students is that they are being judged on core values in all of their judging sessions and in their robot running sessions. And frankly, maybe even in the pits, they are always being judged for core values. In either of the judging sessions, we may ask questions about core values and teamwork. How does your team get along? How does your team decide disagreements and things? And in addition, new this year, the judges will actually, or the referees will be giving a core value score to each of the teams. So even though you don't see core values as a separate judging, it definitely is going to be happening. The question is, we're used to design coding judging being free-form conversation with the judges. Yes. Some of the teams used to come in with a poster, let's introduce our robot and things. But this year, we're encouraging teams to do a 5-minute presentation as part of the design judging. And it absolutely does not need to be as formal as the innovative project presentation. It's not a skit kind of thing, but really the goal here is to give the team a chance to tell the judge what's unique about their robot, what's special about their robot. Does it have a name? What are some things you added? Where did you get the ideas for your robot? And once again, it's really about the process. How did you come up with this robot? Did you just build this particular robot and it started working, or did you have to try some things? This engineering process is all about trial and error. So what were some of the errors that got you to this point? What kinds of testing did you do with your robot? Did you test it only on the missions, or did you test it to see if it went straight? Those kinds of things. So really anything the team can tell the judges about what's unique about their robot, and also how you got this robot built. How did you divide up the chores? Who did what? Some people do programming, some people do building. Did you find a design in a book or online that helped you give it a start on the robot? That's a perfectly fine way to start. And then the programming. How did you decide which missions to do? How did you decide which order to do the missions? Nobody's doing all the missions, so you certainly selected some and not others. And that's the kinds of things that I would put into the design presentation. I wouldn't make it a skit, but I would have individual students that are going to be, okay, you're going to talk about the wheels, you'll talk about the programs, just to give them little cues as to who's going to say what. And I will say that a lot of teams will have a poster of some kind that they'll bring in for that presentation. What's special about our robot.
Thank you, Rand.
Then we'll hand it to Josh.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Rand. And thank you, Vicki. And thank you to all the coaches for everything you do, all the time and effort that you put into these teams and making this program a success. As we've done in the past with the robot performances, now that we're in person again, we will have the performance tables roped off, and only team members will be allowed back by the performance tables. We will not be allowing coaches or parents by the performance tables, but coaches or parents can hang out in the spectator area and watch. When in the performance area, the robots must run autonomously. If a ref sees a tablet or a laptop, we will ask the team to remove it from the performance area. Please do not bring your own mission models. Bring only the equipment that you need, the robot and the equipment you need to run your missions. The mission models that you must use will be provided in the competition area. We will allow 2 students or technicians at the table at a time. The team members can tag in and out as much as they would like to during the 2.5 minutes, and we ask that the rest of the team stays, a good arm's length away from the table so that we don't disturb the table. for either team. At the end of the match of each 2.5-minute round, we will the ref will review the scores with the team, either one member or a couple members, and make sure that the kids agree with the score. There will be no video replays of that match. If there are any questions or comments about the score, please have the kids reach out to the head ref, and have the kids reach out to the head ref so that they can explain what's going on and kind of what they think. If the kids agree with the score, the ref will submit it. The refs will be using tablets this year to score, so once they submit the score, it should go up onto the board pretty quickly, if not immediately. There will be 4 robot rounds. The first robot round will be a practice round, and that round does not score. That is just come out, let's see what the robot is going to do today, and in this performance area on these tables. So at that time, the teams can definitely ask questions of the refs or the head ref, get any calibrations on they need on their sensors, and get ready for official rounds. Then the first 2 official rounds will be run back to back right away, and the third round will be run at a later time. Please make sure that your team members do not walk away with any of our mission models. We need to make sure that those are there for the next team coming up. The official scored rounds will be the final 3 rounds, and your highest score of those 3 will be what determines whether you advance or what goes into your total score for the tournament. The refs will be using the tablets with the scoring app. Feel free to head to the High Tech Kids website and check out that app to see what is actually being scored, how is it being scored, and what can the kids expect when they're at the performance table. And make sure to keep an eye out for robot game updates. So first, we'll release updates on Fridays before 4 or 5 p.m. sometime in the afternoon. So check throughout the day on Friday or early morning Saturday for rule updates. When you get to your tournament, if you have questions on the updates, please find the head ref and ask. For that, the last rule update that was out, so there are 11 rule updates or mission updates so far, and the last one was out on October 21st. So there are a few out there. Please make sure that you take a look at those, and you and the team are well aware of what those are and what they mean.
So if anybody has any specific either robot game questions or judging questions, either feel free to unmute and we can talk about those. I know usually at an in-person coaches meeting, there's lots of questions about, what's happening on the game table. Not sure if anyone wants to ask Josh something specific or if something's legal or illegal.
Hi, this is Robert. I have a team who is looking at maybe using the official Lego rubber bands to band cargo together for delivery, and is not intending to. They're intending to leave the little rubber bands on the cargo. Would that score, or is that considered equipment that needs to come home?
So if that would score in most, if not all, of the situations where you're dealing with cargo, as long as you're not using that rubber band to keep the top of the blue hinged container closed.
Anything else?
So Josh, on that one.
Yep.
So if they're doing load cargo, which is mission 15, so putting it on the platooning truck, the train, or the yellow deck. So if that has equipment, then that wouldn't count. But if they're putting it in the circles, it would be okay.
Yes. Yep.
Basically, the intent was to band 2 together So that it's using the friction of the rubber band to hold them together and to not, so it doesn't slip off the boat. So that would not count then.
Right.
Would they
so I-
be taking the rubber band and wrapping it around one of the cargo containers?
Yeah, it's to hold them together.
Okay, then that would be considered equipment.
Okay.
So that would not score. Yep. So any of the missions where they state that the cargo cannot be touching equipment, it must be touching the mat completely or touching a certain surface completely, then or that there cannot be any equipment, or yep, then it would not score with the rubber bands. If they were delivering their innovation model out with something else and they use the rubber band to hold those together, but they were still touching the mat, then that should score.
There's a question in the chat about the robot presentation being a presentation again. I was curious about that too. Usually it was pretty freeform.
So it's a new thing that first rolled out last year, and it's in your engineering, I believe in the engineering notebook, or maybe the team meeting guide. I think the intent is not for it to be, like a formal thing. I think the intent is to allow the kids a time to say all the awesome things about their robot and about their programs and how those two things work together, and to be able to say, our robot does yada, 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 and this is how we got from point A to point B, and this is how, the programming and the design work together and how all these iterations happened, to tell a story about the robot. So it makes it easier for the judges to maybe drill down and learn more things rather than trying to ask a lot of questions before they can get to the point where they're drilling down. I don't think it needs to be complicated. I just think the team, it's allowing, and it's optional. It is allowing the team 5 minutes to tell the judges how great they are, how great their robot is.
I think it can make it a little bit easier for teams because you can have props, you could have a poster, and it's something you can kind of rehearse a little bit ahead of time, not necessarily the exact words, but Billy is going to talk about how we decided which missions to do, and Joe's going to talk about why the wheels are on that kind of wheels are on the robot, and Mary's going to talk about how we added an arm. And you can just sort of decide ahead of time which students are going to bring up which points, and it just allows you a time where you kind of control the pace as opposed to the judges just throwing questions at you.
So there was a question in the chat, and thanks for bringing this up because I didn't mention this. So all of our judging groups are going to be, we're doing judging groups of 12. In the past, we've done 16s. This year, we're doing 12. So someone pointed out in Egan, there's only 12 teams. So that's one judging group. So for instance, in Egan, there'll be 2 teams advancing. Prior Lake, one day Prior Lake has 24 teams. So that's 2 judging groups. So it's still 2 groups of 12. So your odds are actually the same because you're only competing against those teams in your group. So if you are in the Lakes group, you're only competing against the team in Lakes. You're not worrying about Woods. And then when we have 36 teams, we add Prairie, and then we add Marsh, for 4 groups. So we're doing it in multiples of 12. So the most amount of teams in any judging group is going to be 12. Well, we are super excited to see everyone in person, even if it's a little bit slowly during the day. And I did want to mention again, for anyone who is participating in Prior Lake on Saturday, there's going to be a lot of people at that venue because there is an FRC event happening that day as well at that venue. So, so just make sure that, that you're aware of that, you know. Well, I think we're good. So just thank you to everyone for coming tonight. Good luck at your event. If you have any questions before your event, feel free to email either Jeannie or myself, and we will help you out the best we could. Thank you very much for taking the time to coach these kids. They really appreciate it, even though they might not tell you every day. Have a great evening, everyone. Good night.